Hello, and welcome to Sweet Briar College. Well, at least welcome to a virtual presentation from Sweet Briar College. I am your virtual professor, John Morrisey, from the biology department, and in this brief presentation, I want to let you know what college is, more importantly, how it differs from high school. Then I want to convince you that when you choose a college, you should choose a liberal arts college, and specifically, I think you should choose Sweet Briar College. First, what is college? College is a place where you take a lot of courses and accumulate a lot of credits. Here at Sweet Briar, we require 120 credits to graduate. Over the course of 4 years, or 8 semesters, that means you'll be taking 15 credits per semester on average. Because courses typically are 3 credits per course, that means you'll be taking 5 courses each semester. Over 8 semesters, that means you'll be taking 40 courses in your college career. How are you going to spend these 40 courses? At all colleges, you'll need to choose a major. Here at Sweet Briar College, we have majors in nearly 20 areas of study. We allow self-designed majors, and as you'll see, dual majors are not uncommon. In addition to the 12 courses you take for your major, you'll be taking another 10 courses that are required of all students in our leadership core. Our leadership core is designed to teach you to be a good writer, to know your place in the world, to know that it's our shared responsibility to sustain this world. We want to make sure you dabble in the arts. We want to make sure you understand math and science and engineering and technology. We want to give you a little bit of experience with finances and budgets and money. We want you to be an ethical leader, and ultimately, as a capstone, we want to teach you to be a consequential citizen. After these credits are done, you still have about 18 elective courses left in order to accumulate all 120 credits. And so spread throughout your 4 years, there'll be a wide variety of things that you can choose to do. But what will you choose to do? What will you do with these elective courses? You, of course, could dig more deeply into your major. 12 might be required as a minimum, but there's nothing stopping you from taking lots of additional courses in the major of your choice. Or you can choose a minor or two in other disciplines that also interest you. Or you can choose a second major. There's plenty of room for that to occur. Or you can keep an eye on postgraduate requirements. You may find that if you're targeting one of these programs, such as med school or law school or grad school, they have requirements that are not required by graduation at Sweet Briar. For example, med school requires a sociology course. It's very easy to graduate from college without taking a sociology course. But if you want to go to medical school, you need to take sociology. Or you might choose to become a Renaissance woman. With 18 courses to spend, you can take these in 18 different disciplines and really become a Renaissance woman. Simply stated, these electives are fun, 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 and even more fun. You can dabble, you can explore, you can experiment, and to me, that's one of the chief delights of a liberal arts education. Okay, now, after all of these decisions are made about your curriculum, you're not done, because life at college is much more interesting than simply the courses you take. In college, there are many other co-curricular things that you can choose to do. This is a small list of the things that are available to you at Sweet Briar College. How will you spend your additional time? When you're out of class, when your homework is done, what will you do with the rest of your day? There are lots of choices and lots of fun to be had. Now, how does college differ from high school? I think it differs from high school in 3 fundamental ways. First, the pace in college is much faster. For example, you can take trigonometry as a junior in high school and calculus as a senior. In college, you would take trig in the fall and calculus in the spring. You would take 2 courses in 1 year instead of just one course in 1 year. And so we don't make trigonometry more difficult, but we make it faster. And that makes it more difficult. You have to assimilate more information more quickly in college in general than you are asked to do in high school. Also, you have to function more independently in college. While you are not alone in college, while you have many allies in college and many different people that you can reach out to help you with any problem that might come up from small to large, there's no question that you'll be expected to be more mature and more independent when you're in college. No one will get you out of bed in the morning and make sure you get to class on time. No one will tell you to turn your light off and to shut off Netflix at night and go to bed. No one will ask you if your homework is done when you go out for the evening. That is your responsibility. You have to budget your time. You have to be mature. You have to make good decisions for yourself, and therefore you have to be more independent. That's very different from most high school experiences. And then finally, colleges expect a lot more from you. Things that are acceptable in high school are not acceptable in college. Things that are deemed to be correct or good enough in high school are not correct and are not good enough in college. And here are some examples. This is a cell. This fried egg looking thing is what introductory courses in high school tell you about cells. Although, if you are ever served a fried egg that is made of these colors, I recommend that you don't eat it. Anyway, this is a cell, and lots of cells look like a fried egg. But this thing in a green box is also a cell, and these dented red things are also cells, and these long striped things are also cells, and this thing that looks like a bug squashed on your windshield is also a cell. Again, in college, you'll learn more diverse information and less generalized information than you do in high school. How about grammar and punctuation? Is that important? I can show you that it's very important. For example, if I wrote, "Let's eat Granny," you would think I had a very unusual diet and maybe I should rethink my meal plan. However, if I simply add a comma, just a single comma, all of a sudden my sentence takes on a very different meaning. That comma is extremely important, and therefore, in college, we expect you to know how, when, and where to use commas and all other punctuation marks. Another example is sentence structure. Here's a sentence. I punched him in the eye. That's not a very nice thing to do. I don't know why I did it, but let's say I punched him in the eye. Now, I want to add one word to this sentence. I want to add the word only, one of the most powerful words in our language. It's powerful because it can go almost anywhere, but it really changes the sentence depending on where you choose to place it. For example, I could say, "Only I punched him in the eye." That means you didn't punch him. Or, "I only punched him in the eye." I didn't punch him in the neck. Or, "I punched only him in the eye." I didn't punch you. Or, "I punched him in the only eye." Now I'm fighting Cyclops. So as you can see, sentence structure is important, and words can't just go anywhere in a sentence. It's very important where you place them because it will impact the meaning of the sentence, and it'll change the information that you are imparting with the sentence that you're writing. Is spelling important? You might say, "Oh, I can't spell." Well, we'll break you of that habit. We will teach you to spell, we will teach you that you already know how to spell, and we will teach you to respect spelling and understand that it's important. For example, you may have heard the famous quotation by Churchill when he said that Russia is a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. Well, I once had a student hand in a paper wherein she wrote that Churchill once described Russia as a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enema. Now, I've never been inside of an enema, but I don't think that's what Churchill said. And so, spelling is important. Here's another common misspelling. Can you see it? There's only one error below. And if we were in person together, I would ask you all to point it out. You're not here with me, and so I'll point it out. What I'll point out is there is only one error below, but it's in all three sentences. Because some of these sentences contain Latin words, and Latin grammatical rules are different from English grammatical rules. In short, you are not a Homo sapien. You are a Homo sapiens. That S has nothing to do with singular and plural. Similarly, you do not have a bicep in your arm. You do not have a tricep in your arm. These are very common mistakes. In your arm, you have a biceps or a triceps. That S has nothing to do with singular and plural. And so my professor discovered a new species of bat. That is singular. If you think you're a Homo sapien, then you probably think that this creature is an octopoo. Again, the S on the end of octopus has nothing to do with singular versus plural. To show you how picky we are in college, not only would you lose points for these three errors or for the same error in three sentences, there are other errors in the sentences written above. Do you see them? One error is, in the first sentence, the species name is never capitalized, and also, every time you write a scientific name, you must use italics. Now these sentences are correct, but there were 5 errors that you might get away with in high school. In college, you will lose points. Next, is vocabulary important? Is knowing the meaning of words important? It is, because when you're communicating, you need to mean what you say and say what you mean. And if you're using words incorrectly, you are going to be either confusing your audience or giving them a message that you don't intend to send. For example, you might say that this rattlesnake is poisonous. Well, it isn't. This rattlesnake is not poisonous. In fact, no snake on earth is poisonous. This catfish is not poisonous. This insect is not poisonous. This stingray is not poisonous. And this jellyfish is not poisonous. These animals are not poisonous because poison is a toxin that hurts you when you eat it. These animals are venomous. They hurt you by injecting a venom into you, either with a spine or with their teeth. They have some way of injecting a toxin into you. They are venomous. And so imagine you're at Sweet Briar College. You're on a field trip with me. We're walking around our lovely forests, looking at species interactions during a lab. We stumble upon a snake. You ask me if it's poisonous. I say no, so you reach for it, it bites you, and you die. But I was right. It wasn't poisonous. You didn't ask me if it was venomous. Clearly, I'm not a very nice person. Here's another. If you were here, I would ask you to tell me what kind of government we have. And some of you might say that we live in a democracy. The truth is, we don't. We do not live in a democracy. We live in a democratic society, but the style of government that our founding fathers created is a representative republic. You know the line, and to the republic for which it stands. A democracy does not have a Congress. In a democracy, we would all vote every day on every bill and every referendum, and we would have to quit our jobs because we would be spending all day, every day voting. Instead, in a republic, we elect representatives, and then they vote on our behalfs all year long. So we live in a democratic nation, but we are not a democracy. To show you that I myself am the product of a liberal arts education, I've written a poem about my mental health as an additional example of some vocabulary troubles. Here it is. Roses are red, violets are blue, I'm schizophrenic, and so am I. Now, that is, I hope, a funny poem. But what's funny about it is that this word schizophrenic has nothing to do with multiple personalities. Multiple personalities are dissociative identity disorder, and that condition is extremely rare in our society. It's very, very common in Hollywood plots, but it's not common at all in our society. Schizophrenia, which has nothing to do with multiple personalities, is characterized by auditory and visual hallucinations. You hear things and see things that aren't there. And because you hear these things and you see these things and everyone around you tells you they're not really there, but you trust your eyes and you trust your ears and you start to stop trusting the people around you. And so you start getting paranoid. And so the label is often a paranoid schizophrenic, because if everyone around you is telling you the things you hear and the things you see aren't there, you're not going to believe them, because after all, you are seeing them and you are hearing them. This condition is much more common than dissociative identity disorder. It mostly hits males, and it mostly hits males in their 20s. But it has nothing to do with multiple personalities. Okay, here's another example of the differences between high school and college. The point is, in high school, appropriately, you are taught some much more basic, much more simple generalizations. But they're such generalizations that they're not actually true. And here is my example to demonstrate this phenomenon. You may have learned what characterizes all these weird and wonderful species of mammals. You may have learned that mammals are characterized by the presence of hair, the presence of mammary glands, and I hope I haven't offended anybody with these bare breasts. I'll cover them up. There we go. That's a lot better. Also, you've learned that mammals have live birth, and you've learned that mammals have warm bodies. The trouble is, these two adorable mammals, the duck-billed platypus and the spiny echidna, are perfectly good mammals, but they lay eggs and they have cold bodies just like a lizard that cool off at night and heat up during the day in the sun. And so, what you've been told for most of your life, that mammals have warm bodies and live birth, simply is not true. In college, you'll be expected to know the truth. The truth is, mammals are distinguished from reptiles and birds by a whole host of features that include 7 cervical vertebrae. This means 7 bones in our neck. All of us, humans, cats, horses, mice, dolphins, all of us mammals have 7 bones in our neck. Even this creature with this ridiculously long neck, if you have 7 bones in your neck, this thing should have 127 in its neck, but it doesn't. It has only 7 because it's a mammal, and all mammals have 7 bones in their neck. Because this thing has only 7 long bones in its neck, it has a really difficult time drinking, and it looks ridiculous. Another thing that distinguishes us mammals is pinnae. Pinnae are what you call ears. If you ever see ears on a bird or a reptile, you should probably see your doctor. Also, mammals have biconcave anucleate red blood cells. That means our red blood cells are biconcave, 2 dents dented on each side, and anucleate means they lack a nucleus. All of these are red cells and there's no nucleus. These are white cells. White blood cells have a nucleus that you can easily see. So our red blood cells lack a nucleus and are dented. This is not the case in birds. This is not the case in reptiles. We have a left fourth aortic arch. What does that mean? That means that for the first 4 or 5 days of your embryonic life, you had gills. All of us had gills. And our gills were supplied by pairs of blood vessels heading left and right off of our aorta. The left fourth one is the only one that remains now in you, excuse me, and it becomes your aorta. So your aorta is made from the left fourth blood vessel that was associated with your embryonic gills. 5, we possess sweat glands. Us nerds call them sudoriferous glands. And a few more things. We have 2 sets of teeth. You can say we have 3 sets of teeth if you count that plastic set you get later in life. And in those 2 sets of teeth, you have 4 lower incisors. We lack ribs in the small of our back. We have a jaw joint made of a joint between our dentary and squamosal bones. Anyway, all of these things distinguish us mammals from reptiles and birds. But all of these things are too sophisticated to share with a student in 4th grade. And so earlier in your education, you're told that mammals are warm and have live birth, which is true of most mammals, and so I guess it's okay. But in college, you'll learn the sophisticated version. You'll learn the real story, not just in biology, but in all of your disciplines. You will learn the real version, which is always more sophisticated than the high school version. That's what a mammal is. It's a much more sophisticated way of distinguishing us from reptiles and birds. Now let's move on to why you should go to a liberal arts college. In my view, liberal arts colleges are superior because we don't teach you to do anything. And you may think, well, you're going to come here and give us a lot of money and we're not going to teach you to do anything. What I mean is, we're not a vocational school. We're not going to teach you to do a single specific thing. Vocational training can be useful. If you have training in a single vocation, there are lots of jobs out there and you're liable to find one. But there are 2 problems with going to a vocational college and receiving only vocational training. One problem is you simply may change your mind. When you're 45 years old, you may have a midlife crisis. You may decide you're very tired of doing this same thing over and over, day after day, and you want to change jobs, but you are very limited because you're only trained to do one thing. Another problem with vocational training is, even if you love your vocation, what if it goes away? For example, if your training is the same as this guy, you're not going to make much money because there aren't very many typewriters that need repairing these days. Or what if your vocation is making 8-track tapes, or floppy disks, or rotary telephones? You may love making rotary telephones, but nobody wants them anymore, and therefore vocational training can lead to trouble later in life. Another benefit of a liberal arts education is that 2 heads are better than 1. You've all heard this saying. And not only are 2 heads better than 1, but 2 viewpoints are better than 1. I hope you've all seen the wonderful movie Avengers, starring Captain America and Iron Man. And if you saw this movie, you know that they were having an argument about how to get past barbed wire. And Cap says, "I bet you've never had to lie on barbed wire while your men crawled across your back." And Tony replies, "I'd probably just cut the wire." And this is an example of 2 different people with 2 different backgrounds, with 2 different ways of thinking, trying to solve the same problem. Their movement is impeded by barbed wire, and they had come to 2 very different conclusions. When you are trained in liberal arts, you'll be trained in lots of different disciplines, and therefore lots of different ways of viewing the world and of viewing problems, and you will find that problem solving and design thinking become much, much easier. You become more clever, you become more creative, because you can approach and tackle and defeat a challenge and overcome a problem in a whole variety of ways because of the variety of training you've had in a great variety of courses. And last, the best thing about liberal arts colleges is knowledge is power. What's the opposite of knowledge? The opposite of having knowledge is being ignorant. This doesn't mean that you are dumb. It just means that you don't have very much knowledge. Ignorance is something that we fight against and try to destroy in liberal arts colleges every day. You may have heard that ignorance is bliss. However, Ignorance is a lot like alcohol. The more of it you have, the less you are able to see its effect on you. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is the kiss of death. Or, stated a bit more harshly, whoever said ignorance is bliss must have died a horrible death with a really surprised look on his face. There is a relationship between ignorance and cost. Whatever the cost of our libraries, the price is cheap compared to that of an ignorant nation. There's a relationship between ignorance and freedom. Thomas Jefferson said no people can be both ignorant and free. There's a relationship between ignorance and violence. There is nothing more frightful than ignorance in action. There's a relationship between ignorance and fear. Ignorance breeds fear. And as you know, fear leads to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Who is going to contradict the great philosopher Yoda? This is why you should choose a liberal arts college. We are the antidote to ignorance, and ignorance is one of the biggest problems in our society today. Now, we'll end with why you should choose this particular liberal arts college. I think you should choose Sweet Briar because of our faculty to student ratio. We have a majority of classes that close at 16. That means many of your classes will be shared with only another 8 or 9 or 11 students. This means you'll get all the attention that you deserve. This means I will know your name. You will not be a number. I will know your mom's name. I will know your dog's name. I will know your horse's name. I will know your significant other's name. And because I know you so well, I will be able to write very, very strong letters of recommendation, very persuasive letters of recommendation, because I have a lot of data, because I really know you well. Also, we have very high expectations. I promise you, you will work hard when you come here, because we are going to turn you into a leader who is formidable and confident and assertive and efficient and valuable. In short, we're going to make you a consequential citizen. And so, that's the end of my presentation. I thank you for your time. I wish you were here in person. I wish I could get to meet all of you. And I hope to see all of you in my classroom sometime soon. Thank you very much.